Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you listen to me?
Yes, we are listening now. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Mr. Wume. Yes.
So I hope all of them have completed your exercise. And there was some discussion going on WeChat, which I just saw. Uh, on the log sheet of schedule, Mr. Hamza was pointing out that his one activity is being mentioned as out of sequence activity. What is its reason? If you see its activity predecessor, uh, I just share my screen. This was the activity, and if you see its predecessor, it is start with rebar fixing. But in actual, this activity is starting after the 12 days it has to start. But in actual, it is starting after just 8 days of rebar fixing. So that's why P6 is showing this activity as a little out of sequence. As per sequence, it should start on 23rd of May, but it is starting on 18th of May. So that's why he's showing it in warning, and it is not a problem.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So I hope all of you have completed your exercise and you will not have any problem. So we have discussed about the planning and P6, and we have done exercise. So there are some slides about project monitoring and control, which I want to discuss today before we are going to a actual project in P6. So what is project monitoring and control? We have make a schedule in P6. Is there any use to it? Why we are making it? Why we are updating it? Just to ensure project monitoring and control, we are following all these steps. So in monitoring, checking actual and likely progress against planned progress and tracking progress to date. This is our steps in monitoring. And after monitoring, what we do, we control it. Making changes to plan if necessary, altering the schedule, escalating problems, issues if necessary, taking actions to avoid future problems. So this is the major responsibilities of a scheduling and planning engineer, that he has to schedule a plan, then he has to monitor it and control it. Then he will be able to guide his project to successful completion. Prioritizing monitoring. So in the project, if you have so much of activities like 10,000 activities, it is not possible to monitor every activity on the same with the same glasses at a time. So that's why there is a critical path method we are used while scheduling the project. So our first priority is critical path activities. We know any delay in our critical path activity is going to affect our finish date. So we never compromise any delay in our critical path. Instead, we try to have some early start as possible for our critical path activity so that we can have a float and we get ourselves to some easiness. Activities with no free float remainings, activity with less than a specific float, high risk activities, activities using critical resources. So these are the activities which we have to prioritize and we have to monitor them at all the time, every week, every 15 days, so that any delay in it, we can use a mitigation action for that. Tracking progress, we have done this yesterday, and this can be shown on our chart also, and we can see our progress from the chart also. It also shows that which activities plan on which date and where its actual bar is. Either it is lagging or it is in advance. So you have you have updated your project. You have done some analysis from your plan dates to actual dates. How to put the pressure, how to tell everyone, because you are just one department. For a project, it is a whole set of departments containing from execution, quality, safety, project management. So everyone should be on the same page and should realize the importance of critical activities and what to do for these meetings. Hold regular meetings at appropriate intervals. Discuss work in appropriate details. What is appropriate depends upon project and team size. So every team should know its scope, what he has to do this month. He should have his look ahead from planning team, and he should be knowing that what this activity is critical, and if I have planning has given me the target to complete it this week, I have to complete it this week. And status of meeting is important. Make sure they are well attended. What will be considered all work activities belonging to groups, all problems affecting group score. So in a meeting, you not only discuss that what are the activities they have to do, you also need to ensure that their problems also addressed. If they need some specific resource, if they are having some specific trouble which you have not entered in your schedules, for example, there should be some weather related trouble for which you have not settled some calendar, or there is some local trouble, like you have considered a normal soil, but actually soil is very hard, and for activity if you have considered 6 days, it is actually taking 8 days. So you have to address all their issues. If it is something like this, that activity might take more days, you might discuss with your project manager and add one resource in it to meet it on time. What is another way for project monitoring is using milestones. You set yourself some targets, some milestones, and you follow them and achieve them. By creating these milestones part by part, you can go to a bigger picture and you can achieve overall progress. So what are they? A low level planning tool, an identifiable outcome that can be fixed in time, using signify a major event in the life cycle of a project, often set external to project team. So these are the some definitions of milestones. And what is the purpose of adding? You, of course, you have some milestones at your project level, that is project start milestone, finish milestones. But if you keep adding the milestones to your WBS level also, it will be much easier for everyone to know that I have to complete that pipe rack in October. He will have his milestone there. I have to install all these pumps in November. He will have that milestones. So breaking down your milestones also will help you to ensure everyone to understand their goals, and it will be easier for you to monitor also. Allocating milestones, identify the tasks which lead to a milestone being reached and any dependencies. Milestones are often associated with actual outcomes such as design documents or a complete program. And agree the work effort required to reach the milestones and the end date. Agree with worker, that is person allocated to the tasks that lead up to that milestone. So whenever you are you make a schedule, and then after you further break it to some other planning tools to have proper have a more tight monitoring, you basically discuss it with your execution team, with your area team, and when you are on same page, this is the only way you can achieve it. You just give him the milestone that you have to achieve these 4 milestones in this month, but he does not agree with you. No matter, he will keep on saying you for 20 days of the month that he will do it, but for the last 10 days he will keep telling you, I have this problem, this problem, this problem, I cannot achieve it. So it's the better way, you sit with your team at the start of the project, at the start of the month. If you are giving them milestone for 1 month, sit with your team and list the milestones which you think are achievable for the month. Then discuss it with them. If they are having some trouble, some resource lacking, or some design problem, some procurement problem, try to solve them. Give them the date that on this date your problem will be solved. Then give me this milestone on this date. If you agree with them and lock with them, it will be easy to keep them answerable. So if you have given them a plan and you have set your targets, you have set your goals, but still you are getting delay, how you can get back on target? So there are two principal options: shorten the critical path, and second is reconsider precedence requirement. So either you just short your critical path, and what is the purpose, how you will short it? In critical path, if you have 10 activities, try to see how you can have some start to start activities in your critical path. If it has 10 activities and finish to start activities, try to have some activities work in parallel so that your critical path length decreases, it shorts. The more critical path shortens, more will be its total float and you will have some margin. Other is reconsider precedence requirement. So what are the requirements which are normally done? If they are too lengthy, you can have some on project level, there are some requirements from quality, HSE, that you have to fill this form, this form. You can discuss with them, you can have this working in advance, or you can, if you have to need some resources, you need some resource allocation forms like this, or if there is some lacking of resources, you can also discuss with them and just reconsider what requirements they can be here to put you back on the target. So in the project management, whenever you are going to a project, whenever you do some work, there is some risk also involved. So risk management assessment and risk management is assessment and its mitigation and dealing is also a part of project controlling. Without dealing the risk, you might have a lot of surprises, and as you move to the end of the project, you might keep on getting so much big surprises that might not be controllable at that stage. So normally a good planning and control team always maintain its risk register and assesses risk, suggest some mitigation action for it, and apply them. So if you see a table here, a chart here, from where risk management start? It starts from identify, analyze, treat, monitor, control. This is the cycle of risk management. You have to identify a risk, you have to analyze it, what is its solution, what is mitigation action, how we can decrease its impact, or we can minimize, or we can nullify its impact, and then what is its would you do its treatment, the required action which are suggested in your analysis, you imply them, and then you monitor them, that what is the impact. Either you got on the result you wanted and you keep on controlling it, because a risk can reoccur on other stages you might not have identified at that stage. If you identify a risk for one area, it might reoccur for other area also. So risk identification, we have an example here that a risk of only one Java programmer for a project. We have a project in which we have a Java program, only one Java programmer. So it is a risk for us. Why it is a risk for us? Because we do not have any backup for it. So we just identified this, that it might be a risk for us for our project. We have a target to finish 10 software by a milestone date, and we have only one Java programmer. So in risk analysis, whenever we analyze the risk, we categorize it. It can be low, moderate, medium, high. And there is different types of treatment for every type of risk. Normally, low risks are not treated at that emergency level as the high risk are treated, because high risk are going to suffer you both with time and cost, which is the primary factor of for a project. What to do about a risk? There are two strategies. How can the risk be avoided? Reduce the probability of it occurring. Don't use Java. It's one thing that you do not use Java if you have only one programmer. You use some other software for which you have more resources available. How can the impact of risk be reduced? Train another programmer. Either then you can have another option. You train another programmer so that you have a backup for it. And another is ongoing risk management. Employ another Java programmer if a Java programmer leaves. There is also a risk that if it leaves it, then what you can have a mitigation plan that if it leave it, you have some programmers already interviewed and you can assign them and you can hire them. So this is the introduction to risk management. And now we have covered some aspects of planning and control monitoring in this whole exercise of 9 days. And next thing is we are going to have some, we will discuss a project and we will see how the things are working which we have done in our exercises, how we imply them on a real project, because our project has only around I think 40 activities, but even a small project contains activities around 5 to 700 800 activities for a level 2 plan and around 5,000 activities for a level 3 plan. So this is a solar plant level 2 schedule, PV plant level 2 schedule, and we will discuss some of its aspects which we have already done in the exercises. First, we will go to see its WBS. So this is the main nodes of WBS. What I have, this is the EPC project. So its WBS structure is containing all the aspect of the project. EPC is normally engineering, procurement, and construction. So you will see that this project will have all these aspects. So our first node of WBS is milestone, then some preliminary work, which we required as per contract, then permits, engineering, procurement, construction, and commissioning. These are our first node of WBS. Then in milestones, we have 3 types of milestones: key milestones, owner milestones, and payment milestones. Similarly, in preliminary works, we have some works which we have to do as per contract. So we have listed them, we have added them in their respective WBS. Then we have some permits under our scope, EPC scope, permit under owner scope, some HCIS approvals. Engineering, in engineering, here we have defined it as PV plant, which is our solar plant area engineering, substation engineering, overhead transmission line engineering, some interconnection works which we have to do, and specific equipment approvals, vendor approvals, O&M manuals. So these are our major head of engineering. In procurement, we have 3 types: procurement management, means for material, equipments; subcontract managements for dealing with the contractors which will work on site; manufacturing and delivery. If we are going to have some equipments manufactured from some vendor, we have planned it in this WBS. In construction, our major heads are PV plant, substation, overhead transmission line, and interconnection construction work. And similarly, in commissioning, we have mechanical completion, pre-commissioning, commissioning, and project closeout report. So there, what are the things I required to create this WBS structure? How I created this WBS structure? First thing is, as per I read the contract. What is the contract saying? Contract saying that these are your milestones. These are your preliminary works which you have to do at the start of the work. So I have to plan them separately. Then contract says that it is a EPC scope. You have engineering, you have procurement, you have construction. So I plan them respectively in their WBS. And then where you have construction, you have to do the commissioning also. So I plan commissioning here. For engineering work, you will get the engineering scope from your engineering department. They will give you some major activities for level 2. And these are our major activities, major BOQ. You can plan your activities according to it. Similarly, for procurement, you can have a procurement list from your procurement department with their planned duration for issuance, how much time they require to issue the PO. And they will even give you the duration for manufacturing of any equipment if required. So basically your source for procurement will come from your procurement department. Then for construction, you will go for your layout plan. In the layout plan, you can categorize, you can define your WBS. Give me 1 second, I find out if I can open the layout also. Currently layout is not available with me in the system, but my layout shows me that I have to make a camp which I planned in mobilization area. Then one of my major area is PV plant, other is substation, overhead transmission line, and interconnection work. So these are some major classification in the layout. So I created them as my first WBS for construction. So in commissioning, normally it is almost same for every job: MC, pre-commissioning, commissioning, and project handover. So this is our main WBS structure, and how this is the first thing which we have to do whenever we are going to make a schedule after EPS and OBS. First, we have to define our project structure, WBS structure, that how we are going to plan the activities in our project, what will be their basis. So I just told you that how I came through it. So this is for a PV plant, this is level 2 general WBS structure. So here for the milestones, we get the milestones from some, normally, there is some appendix in the contract which defines the milestones, or whenever you are issued some LOI or LOA, whatever in some countries says. Here we have LNTP. In it, they have defined the milestones. So you have to define the same milestones, and they should be linked with the activities and should be matching with your contract. For initial plan, for a baseline plan, you cannot deviate from your contract. If your contract date is, for example, as for this project, it is 17th of March, then if you give a plan to owner with 20th of March, he is never going to expect this. He is never going to expect and freeze this one, because he says, I cannot deviate from the contract which we signed it. So first, our first schedule, first submission have the dates, so start and finish dates which are matching with our contract. So these are some milestones, and I have told you their source from where you can have this. Then we have some preliminary works. For example, for this project, we have a list that these are our LNTP scope, which we have to do before the start of the project. So we have listed it in this WBS, and we have assigned them the activities and their relationships. And again, every project has some constraint. You can also say them as a permit also, that if you cannot start some jobs without these permits. For example, here is a permit of highway connection design. You have to get, if you are having some road work, you have to get the permits from highway. It varies from countries to countries. In some countries, you do not have to go for it, and only companies are authorized to give it to you. In some companies, you have to go to the relevant department. Similarly, for camp host, you have to have the permit from housing company, and construction permit, land lease permit, building permits. These are the permits. Normally they are done from the owner side as per contract. So this is HCIS approval. This is normally in Saudi Arabia. You have to deal with this. Then here comes the engineering activities. For level 2 or level 3, you get these activities from engineering department. Normally, how engineering do it? They develop a EDL, engineering design register, or engineering drawing list for this. And in the EDL, they get all these activities that we will issue all these documents to you, and you plan that documents in your schedule. Then after you freeze them, you can also give them their dates, that on this date I need these documents, so that my next activities of procurement and construction do not suffer. And you also not only this ends here, after it, for whole of the project, you have to monitor with the engineering team that they meet their targets. The dates you have given to them, they should follow that dates. And if there is some delay in issuance of any documents or approval of any documents from engineering side, it is going to give its impact to its successor procurement activity or construction activity, whichever it is. So you also keep on following EDL and its update on weekly or bi-weekly basis. And same is updated into the schedule also whenever you update the schedule. Normally, our level 3 schedule is updated after 1 month. So these are the engineering activities, and I have told you their source. So engineering gives you the activities department wise, or whichever, how they give you the activity, you can plan them accordingly. So this is the way how we plan our engineering in an EPC. After the engineering, there comes the procurement management. In the procurement activities, normally are linked with engineering. You ask the offer whenever you have some specification of that material or equipment freeze by engineering, issued by engineering. So whenever engineering issue a specification, you ask for the offers and bids for that equipment or material in your procurement section. After receiving the offers and their evaluation and approval by engineering team, you go for its commercial evaluation and issuance of PO. So this is the way we get a major list of material from our procurement and engineering department. They give you the list that these 20 materials are our major materials which you have to plan in your schedule. So we plan them and we link them with engineering. Their predecessors are linked with engineering. Similarly, there are some contracting jobs which you have to award on the project. For example, some civil work, some block work, masonry work, whatever the subcontract you plan them. After the issuance of PO, the next part for material or equipment comes its manufacturing. So after the approval of PO, you link it with the manufacturing of that material, and with manufacturing, it can be onshore, offshore. You get all these details from your procurement department, and they will even give you all the data that how much can be the lead time, and what will be its manufacturing time, and what will be its lead time to reach you on site. So you plan your activities accordingly. This is level 2 plan. Basically, in it you see there are this activity. For example, if I am talking about this PV piles, it will not come at once at site. It will come in lot of batches, approximately 10 to 12 batches. So we will plan in the level 2 plan. We are just planning it here as a whole activity and keeping its duration to a long time. But when we will go to level 3 plan, we will plan it on batches. That when our level, we will further divide the WBS to batches, batch 1, 2, 3, and we will mention that when our batch 1 manufacturing start and when it will arrive on site. So similarly, you can see for every equipment, its manufacturing is planned and it is linked with issuance of PO, and then for the equipments who are offshore, they are planned with their maritime travels and their fare and transportation, custom clearance, then they arrive at site. So after manufacturing these activities, for all the most of the manufacturing activities, what is their predecessor? Their predecessor is after issuance the PO, every vendor make a detailed engineering drawing for its equipment raw material and he approve it from you. Then he start manufacturing as per that drawing. So its predecessor is that vendor drawing, and after vendor drawing is predecessor is issuance of PO. And equipment material delivery is linked to your construction activities. So whenever your equipment arrives on site, you have your construction activity with linked with it. So in construction, we have some mobilization activities. Then this is our major portion in construction. PV plant, substation, overhead line, and interconnection diagram. So in a PV plant, I hope most of you, if who have worked on it, they might know it. In PV plant, it contains further lot of loops and lot of arrays of solar panels. So after the PV plant, its next WBS will be its, you can divide it into loops, and loops can further be divided into blocks. So while this is level 2 schedule, in this schedule, we are just keeping it up to whole PV plant as once, as a complete, and we are giving its major activities a timeline. That when we are starting the cleaning and grubbing of whole PV plant, we are giving it 68 days. What will happen when we go to level 3? We will divide it into further units. For example, for this project, it will have 31 loops. So we will divide it to up to 31 loops, and we will plan the clearing and leveling activity for every loop separately. Similarly, we have other activities of our PV plant, module installation, and we have linked all these activities with their relationships. How we came to know with this relationship? Some is from our company's KPI knowledge. We got the information from our other projects. We discuss with our site teams. That's why how we define this schedule. First, a planning engineer makes some schedule on his some of his own experience and other project experience, and then we define it with our site team, which is going to deploy on the project. That how they are having their construction strategy on it. So these are the activities for a PV plant. Then another head in the PV plant is road work, meteorological station and fence work, security systems, HCIS facilities. So we have planned all the major heads in PV plants. Similarly, in substation, we have a control building, warehouse building, power transformer area, pump room, and some auxiliary work. This is a level 2 schedule. That's why we are not going to so much detail that for every foundation we are adding a separate WBS. So for all the, we have added main WBS and we put all the remaining small works in auxiliary work. Then we have this overhead transmission line. We have activity for its civil work and installation work and then interconnection work. After it, we go to commissioning. So how construction is linked, mostly the civil construction is linked with your area site handover, site mobilization, and issuance of drawing. While your mechanical or equipment installation, it is linked, electrical work, it is linked with the availability of material at site, delivery of material at site. So this is normally logic used for the construction work. Here, if we see, this is our first activity. So you can see this is linked with all these activities. From here, all these activities might not be driving it. From here, you can right click it and you can add driving column here. So basically this activity is which is driving the start of our PV plant clearing and leveling, which is mobilization of direct work manpower to site. And when you go to it, it will be linked to the site. It is linked to the apply process obtain manual camp housing application, and which is linked to the construction of TSF. So as I told you that your civil work normally linked with your site mobilization, site handover, and your electrical mechanical work is linked with the finishing of civil work and delivery of equipment or material at site and completion of design, of course. So we have discussed up to construction. Now we go to commissioning part. In commissioning, we have normally first we go for MC, which is mechanical completion. Normally mechanical completion definition for some, it varies a little bit from industry to industry. Here for us, mechanical completion work means no hot work is involved now in it, and we have done our scope work. And pre-commissioning is basically some test which you have to do for your work, some hot loop test, some loop test, and some other test for cables or motors. There comes into pre-commissioning, and in commissioning you are actually energizing your plant. You are actually turning it on, whatever it is. It's oil plant, then you are having your first pig light and into the pig launcher, and you have first gas in if it is an oil and gas plant. If it is a PV plant, you energize your first connection, which is with the overhead transmission line. Or if it is a cement plant, you start crushing your first batch of raw material into raw mill. So this is commissioning. In the commissioning, you stages all the commissioning activities, and normally in the commissioning, you have to perform some test also to show your productivity for which you have committed with the client. and then there is project closeout and handing over. In it, you plan the activities for your project closeout and handing over how it is defined in the schedule in the contract. Similarly, you define the same activities in your same milestones which you have for project closeout. So this is a brief introduction to this level 2 schedule. No, normally whatever whenever someone will present it, and everyone will ask to go for its critical path analysis and multiple float. What are their floats? Which activities are critical at which level? So if we go for it, our first float path is our some milestone dates, and this is my first float path, and it has a float of 4 days, and it has these activities in it. And basically it is the telecom system engineering finalization. Sorry. It is telecom system engineering finalization, its manufacturing and delivery at site and installation. And it will be linked with some energization work and the overall completion of the project. So this is my first float path, which has a total float of 4 days. So if my activity of this manufacturing goes beyond 64 days, this float path will keep on decreasing. And if it goes to 75 days, I will miss my project end date. You see, my project has delayed by 13 days. So this is the second major float path in my project, which has a float of 5 days total. And this is about main transformer, its engineering approval, its manufacturing, and arrival at site and its installation. My third float path is having float of 6 days, and it is regarding HV switch gears, HV equipments, its engineering finalization, its manufacturing, arrival at site, and installation. So how like this everyone can analyze, and then they will see that which activity is here, that either it is the manufacturing of transformer HV equipment. Can we do it in 70 days? If yes, then your float will increase. If no, it means that you are already on a narrow head